teachers of Reddit, what's the saddest thing you've heard a student say? A second grader told me that he was feeling weird and tired that day because he didn't sleep much the night before, because people were shooting each other on his street, and his dad went out to see what was happening and didn't come back until morning. He was so worried he hadn't slept at all. Another student told me he couldn't take his ADHD medicine because his mommy sold it for food. I keep seeing all of these stories about food. My school does a little thing that isn't much, but definitely helps. Every Friday, kids with the low income is sent home with a sack of food. Usually including water, juice, a can of tuna, a small bag of chips, raisins, and other small non-perishables. It's a way a kid can have a meal, or two if they otherwise aren't able to. I have two from the same open university in an economically depressed area. With tears, can I please turn in my paper next week instead of next class because my brother just got convicted, and they are asking for the death penalty. Poor kid. That's a hell of a lot to handle at 18. This was an essay on the topic of, why are you here? The student, an older woman in a freshman comp class, wrote that she'd had her kids at a young age, and now that they were grown, she wanted to show them that she could still make something of herself. And even though her husband told her that he would leave her if she went to college, she came anyway. Thank God it was a diagnostic essay, because how the hell would you grade that? I just wanted to cheer and hug her. Many years ago I was teaching in a private school for children with emotional impairment and behavioral difficulties. I had a 6-year-old boy in class that had an upcoming court date about his rape by his mother's boyfriend. The rape happened when he was 4 years old. He looked at me with intensity and asked, "Do you think that the judge would let go into rapist's cell and beat him up? I am so much bigger now, and I have been practicing. Oh, and after, could I live with you because my mom wants to live with him when he gets out of jail, and I won't be able to live there anymore." As part of my job, I have to read a few crime reports. One was for a girl that was raped by her mother's boyfriend. He raped her the first time at 9 years old while out on bail for raping her then 8-year-old cousin. He served time in jail, but was released, and the mom took him back. So the now 13-year-old girl was going into a straight panic, because the man who raped her and her cousin was living in the same home. She was able to get help after her mom called the cops because the girl was being out of control and disrespectful by dragging her dresser in front of her bedroom door at night to keep the boyfriend rapist out. Fuck that mom, and fuck the system that allows a rapist to live in the same home as children. My best friend is a guardian ad litem. They're free volunteers appointed by courts to look out for the interests of minors or the mentally challenged, in cases when the court doesn't think family members have their best interest at heart. I wish I could tell you this was some super uncommon thing. I would be weirdly happier if I was, even a little bit, shocked by this story. The most fucked up thing about this story is that I can pretty much guarantee that it's going to happen to at least a few dozen kids tonight, and tomorrow night, and the night after, and right on down the line. In the good cases, one of the adults is dumb enough to call the cops, who quickly put 2 and 2 together. More common though, the kids either endure abuse for a decade, or they run away and nobody even reports them missing. The worst part is that even after the cops get involved, for lots of kids, the cycle of abuse isn't anywhere near over. For tons of these kids, they basically get marked, which is to say, sexual abusers look for kids who have been sexually abused and target them specifically. Children in group homes are 28 times more likely to experience abuse. Aside from broader themes, like social services does actually try to keep a lookout for parents their kids convicted abusers back into the house because it happens all the goddamn time. We let those kids down not once or twice, but we fail them continuously and subject them to an insane amount of abuse. If you think you've hit the low point of this story, no, you don't get to leave feeling even that okay. Many states put foster kids in facilities that are either active or former juvenile corrections facilities. You read that correctly. Kid reports sexual abuse, kid goes to jail, sometimes for longer than their abuser does. For the kids going to jail, the kids going to group homes, and even the kids going to proper foster family. I can't say enough good things about the thousands and thousands of great people fostering kids and adopting them every day. The kids' lives are packed in fucking trash bags. They get a few changes of clothes, a toy or two if they're lucky, and someone's taking their time, and they put their life in a trash bag. It sends exactly the message that you think it does. And when the kids experience more abuse later, the reason sexual predators know they're easy marks is because they know the kids are going to have to think hard about whether or not to report it, because they know the system is going to put them through hell for the high crime of being abused. That said, you, random redditor reading this, can help. Whether you want to decorate some luggage for kids to tell them they aren't trash and their life means something, build a bike or skater or scooter for some kids, or put together a birthday box for a kid who isn't gonna have a birthday unless you make it happen. Or maybe you don't have lots of time or whatever, so you just wanna kick a $5 over to a charity that will put it towards one of those things. Hit up. You want to have a corporate team building thing. Instead of doing stupid trust falls, do a group bike build. See the looks on both your employees' faces and the kids' faces when after you're all done building them and learning about how to share tools and communicate effectively that the work actually mattered and made a difference in some kid's life. I was teaching media, journalism, podcasting, video editing, etc. to students in Southeast Europe who wanted to better utilize social media to share what was happening in their countries. Think Arab Spring. One of my students from Burma mentioned sleeping with her father. I pulled her aside to have her clarify. Her father sleeps in bed with her and her sister to make sure they aren't kidnapped overnight and sold into the sex slave trade. Most sobering moment of my life. I've been an ESL teacher online for Japanese people of all ages for around 6-7 years or so. I had a favorite student. Sweet nice older gentleman. Loves to talk about his favorite anime shows with me to practice his English, and likes to ask about what I drew during the week. I'm an illustrator. One day, he contacted me out of class hours, which was against the company's rules, and left me a message with the context of, "Hello, dear teacher. I always look forward to our classes, and I have been very happy whenever we talk. I know you've become more popular, and other students have requested for your classes, so we cannot talk as often as we used to. I know I am only one of the many people you teach English to, but you have been so kind to me during our classes, and I feel like we have become friends. I am afraid to say that I will no longer be taking your classes anymore as I am contemplating suicide. I've been so depressed lately, and I no longer know what to do." Against company protocol, I contacted him as soon as I saw the message, and begged him to tell me his mailing address, and told him to wait until my letter comes. I wrote him a very long letter of why he shouldn't do it, and also sent a lot of my art prints and stickers to hopefully cheer him up. He responded after some weeks, and said that it truly helped him clear his mind. We are still friends to this day, and he sends me pictures of his pet rabbits from time to time. Dunno if this counts as I'm the one that said it, but I had a pretty tough time at school. I had almost no friends and buried myself in my studies. My tutor was this tiny angry Welsh man called Mr. Evans, who I didn't think even noticed I existed, as I just kept my head down and had no interest in either of his subjects. Flash forward 5 years and I'm working a part-time retail job whilst paying to learn accountancy at a local college. One random Sunday, who walks in but Mr. Evans. He notices me, looks surprised, and comes over to talk. We shoot the shit for 5 minutes or so, as he basically asks me how I'm doing, what I've done since 6th form, etc. Before he goes, I tell him I'm surprised he remembers me after all this time, considering all the kids that must have come and gone since then. He looks me in the eye and says, "You always remember the ones you worry about. You once spent 10 minutes in one of my lessons arguing with me about what the point of anything was in the politest way possible. It's great to see how well you're doing now." Did a pretty standard scale drawing project where students measured and drew their bedrooms. A student drew squares along the walls, and when I asked what they were, he said they were the stove and refrigerator. Kid was sleeping in the kitchen. The fact that he drew these in a school assignment shows that this is normal for him, and that he has likely been sleeping in the kitchen his whole life just makes it all a whole lot worse. Do you know how the kid is doing today?